instance, right here in Beverly Hills, we passed a fracking ban last year. A foreign corporation can sue Beverly Hills for that fracking ban, just like Lone Pine Resources, an American corporation, is suing the province of Quebec under another trade agreement for its fracking ban. And Philip Morris is suing Australia and Uruguay for their plain paper packaging rules. So Hillary has already, in her book, Hard Choices, said that she does not like the investor state dispute clause. However, it is in this agreement, and she has to come out unequivocally against this agreement. Not only that, fast-tracking it is really wrong because under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the Congress has the authority to regulate trade, not the President. And with fast track, they will only get 60 days to review it. They can only vote it up or down. They'll have all of 18 seconds each to speak about it. They cannot add amendments. And it's an over 2,000-page agreement. Up until this point, it's been in total secrecy. They have to go into a basement in a building to look at it. They're not allowed to bring staff. They're not allowed to take notes. And they're not allowed to talk about what they see in it. It's like some national security thing that's only reserved for war. And this is basically a trade agreement that's going to give corporations so many more powers than they already have. Of this 29-chapter trade agreement, what we know because of WikiLeaks. 600 corporations have this agreement on their computers at the office, but not one member of the press or one member of the public has seen it. Just these 40 congressmen who've demanded to see it under the conditions that I spoke of. And what we know from WikiLeaks is of the 29 chapters, only 5 of them relate to trade. It's bad for workers because it's going to outsource millions more American jobs. Every president from Clinton to Obama says that we're going to get more jobs and more and small businesses are going to benefit. That's not what happened. 5 million jobs have been lost, 57,000 factories have been shuttered, and small businesses like my own family's business has gone out of business because of the race to the bottom. So we want to ask Hillary Clinton to say no to the TPP and no to fast track. She needs to join her opponent Bernie Sanders, who has already come out against this. He's voted against every trade agreement. And on the other hand, she has voted for every single one of them except for CAFTA.
I would have liked to say that covered it pretty well. The Secretary of State said she was very supportive overall.
She touted it as part of the Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton touted the TPP as part of the pivot to Asia, and she called it the gold standard in trade agreements. In her book, as I mentioned, she has come out against the ISDR, but she has not come out against this fast track bill, which has that dispute clause right there in it.
TPP is Trans-Pacific.
Trans-Pacific Partnership, sorry about that. And then there's also the Transatlantic, the TTIP, which is the same type of agreement with European countries. And if this fast track bill gets passed, the TPP, the TTIP, and any future agreement will be included in it. And also, it's a docking agreement, which means any country can sign on. So if China wants to sign on to this agreement, that can happen with absolutely no debate in Congress. If this trade agreement is such a good deal for the American people, they should not be afraid to have an open debate about it in Congress.
Anti-immigrant, anti-Latino hatred that has consumed American politics as of late. Hillary Clinton cannot morally remain on the sidelines while our communities are sold out to multinational corporations. Yet again, Latinos across the country will not forget elected officials who leave us out in the cold come November next year. Now is the time to remember what exactly the last one of these deals left us with, and just what Hillary Clinton is risking with her silence on the issue. The North American Free Trade Agreement, which came into effect 20 years ago under the Clinton administration, led to the offshoring of hundreds of thousands of American jobs, many in the textile, garment, and manufacturing sectors that largely employed Latinos. NAFTA led to millions of Mexicans losing their livelihoods along with a simultaneous surge in food prices. This resulted in the forced migration by millions of economic refugees who sought a way to support themselves and their families as they had been able for generations before trade deals robbed them of their livelihoods. Displaced Mexican workers fled urban centers in Mexico and to the United States. NAFTA's failure is a powerful preview of what will happen if Hillary Clinton stays silent on Fast Track and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Make no mistake, behemoth corporate interests will be the only winners if TPP passes. Pharmaceutical companies, Wall Street, financial institutions, and that's just the beginning. The TPP will put profits before people. There are doubtlessly well-meaning folks who support massive corporate mergers like the TPP out of genuine but misguided belief in free trade fantasies. Unfortunately, the reality is more of a nightmare than a dream for those of us without multinational corporate bank accounts. Hillary Clinton needs to speak up now against Fast Track and the TPP.
Yeah.
We need her leadership and her opposition. We need to know whose side Hillary Clinton is on, because millions of lives are about to change for the worse if she does not act. Thank you.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton, we know whose side she's on. Yeah, she is on her own side. That's why she's not coming out for anything. She's playing it safe. And not taking a stand where she doesn't have to, as opposed to Bernie Sanders, who has come out against this Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay, our next speaker is Zuri Allen from the Organic Consumers Association.
Hello. So I'm going to talk about food because we haven't talked about that a lot, and we all eat. So pretty important conversation to have. It's pretty much the thing that all of us do with our families. I'm here as a consumer. Organic Consumers asked me to come out. I'm here also as a voter, and I'm here as a mom. And it's really important to me that we have our right to know what we're eating and feeding our families. As a mom, we're seeing allergy increases. We're seeing a 400% in allergy increases. Many of them are linked back to the chemicals that are in our food supply. And if you aren't aware, the chemical corporations are making our food. So what's happening with the TPP and how this relates to food is that we've been trying to label GMOs since 2011. We started here in California and in Vermont. We have over 30 states that are trying to label GMOs, and we have been fought by corporate agrochemical corporations, and we have been fed a bunch of lies about these GMOs, and we have fought it with just the simple right to know. We have the right to know what we're eating and feeding our family. And we recently have found that we passed laws in Maine and Connecticut and Vermont. We almost passed one in Oregon. We lost by 800 votes. We are currently in Maine trying to overturn a ruling that basically is a rider. We're also in court with the GMA and Monsanto and friends, trying to basically just get the right to know. They passed the law in Vermont, and it was after 3 years we passed the law in Vermont, and now we are in court, and we won our first, and now they're appealing. So we have a lot of work to do to get our food supply back in the hands of people and farmers, and we really have a huge opportunity with our state rights to know. But if the TPP passes in this trade deal that they're trying to fast track, it will negate the states' rights to be able to label GMOs. And not only does that, but other states, there's 64 countries around the world that label GMOs. It will also reverse some of those rights in those states. The TPP is the death of your right to know. And that's the one thing I want to leave you with. And the other thing I want to say is that if you aren't familiar with GMOs, GMOs equal pesticides. They equal more chemicals. And so if you aren't aware of what you're eating, please get informed. Google GMOs, Google your right to know, and I'll leave you with that. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I just want to announce that Danza, Mexica, Quactemoc is in the house. Thank you very much. I want to thank Carlos Marroquin from Occupy Fights Foreclosures, who's also here. Obviously, the derivatives that I talked about earlier, which led to the it led to the housing bubble and the housing collapse, which led to the financial collapse. So this is all very tied together. And as Elizabeth Warren just said yesterday, if the TPP passes and Fast Track passes, Maybe you think you're giving it to a Democratic president right now, but the next president could be Republican, and the Republicans have sworn to eliminate Dodd-Frank. And Dodd-Frank is the financial regulations that were too weak to begin with, but at least there's something. And so that's another reason. Our next speaker is Jack Ite,
publisher of Wilder Utopia website that talks a lot about sustainability for the future, as well as an organizer for SoCal 350 Climate Action Coalition. We're a coalition of over 100 groups across Southern California working to protect the climate and stop these dirty fossil fuel projects. Basically, foreign fossil fuel corporations love free trade deals. And to hell with our ongoing drought and our record-setting heat waves and the collapse that we're experiencing right now in the Pacific Ocean. The climate disruption is happening locally, it's happening globally. And we need to take action now, and we need to be able to implement regulations on these fossil fuel projects. SoCal 350 Climate Action is particularly opposed to the fact that TPP would sabotage these efforts to cut climate-disrupting greenhouse gases, to ban fracking, and to reject extremely damaging projects like the Keystone XL tar sands pipeline, by allowing these corporations the right to sue governments to protect their profits protect their profits in private
Deacon
trade
Wadi and
courts.
his wife Helen, who are here, who have been strong advocates for the working poor, for those who are struggling in such dire consequences these days. And here in Los Angeles, we work on issues, but what we know is that the issues here have been exacerbated by NAFTA. We know that people are, as my brother, I don't know where he went, I think his name Alberto, was saying that, you know, so much of the immigration to Los Angeles and the struggle of the immigrant poor is coming from the context of a really broken international, well, really North American NAFTA situation. That NAFTA has decimated the economy, which has destroyed indigenous communities in Mexico in particular, and has broken up families in the process for people to try to find enough money to just take care of their families south of the border. It has been a huge disruption for so many people, and we know that this TPP is the same principle, but multiplied by whatever factor is an ugly factor. I don't know what it actually is, but it's a big factor, and it's going to lead to further disruption, and I believe probably irreversible damage for families all over the planet, really, because it has an impact not just in the nations that are involved in this trade agreement, but also the other ones that become the losers when a pact is made between two countries or between some groups. So I'm here to say that that fast track means no transparency. That's what we're really saying. Fast track means that we don't know anything about what's going on. And I think all people of conscience understand that transparency is step number one to actually being able to figure out how to deal with the problems. By creating a situation where no one knows what's going on, that's what leads to incredible suffering in the world. Everybody wants to hide. I'm also involved in animal rights work. Faith Action for Animals is my group. One of the issues we have in the United States is ag-gag, which is laws that protect factory farming agribusiness from any scrutiny, because it makes it illegal to videotape what's happening behind the walls of the factory farm. And those kinds of laws are exactly what we're seeing with TPP, and more specifically the fast track component of it. So many of you have been my brothers and sisters along the way ever since the Occupy days, and we see on some of the signs the number 99%. We know that TPP will not just affect the 99%, but really the 99.99999%. The only people that are not going to be affected by this are the ones who have the ability to go to space and live there for the rest of their lives. This is such a destructive, broken system. and it's all for the sake of profits. So I just call out the fact that so much of what we've been talking about is the criminality of corporate America, and I certainly stand with all of you on that. But I want to also extend, as a matter of faith principle here, and our commitment as people of faith, that the selfless focus as opposed to the self-interest focus is what brings me to this table. How many families are going to see their families split up and parents have to migrate to other places because the factories in their town are shut down? How many people are going to have to go onto public assistance? And in those countries where they don't have public assistance, what is going to happen? This is just a very, very bad step in the reverse way. I used to think that Republicans stood for one set of evils and the Democrats were the antidote. Well, Hillary, you have an option here to either redeem the Democratic Party or further enslave it to corporate greed. So thank you very much.